There's one button I forgot to click.
All right.
There we go.
Do
Okay,
that again.
now we're live. All right. So, starting one more time again. It's always fun technical issues, but otherwise, yeah. Everybody, thanks for tuning in today. I'm really excited to be hosting John and Jason here on the stream. And let me one quick second.
Hey, there we are. I see us.
Okay, yep, just needed to mute myself. I was getting the feedback. All right, so it's going to be a really, really cool year. We're doing a lot of live
It happens
streams.
to me all the time.
I know,
It happens
right?
to me all the time.
Yeah, that's happened twice now, where it's I start to listen and then that loop of 2 to 3 seconds comes back in. And as a random just tangent, there's actually there's a couple of like apps called like stupefiers, which you put it in your headphones, it loops your own voice back to you, and it was like I think it was a YouTube or a trend for a while in videos of getting people to try to talk without stuttering when they hear themselves back with a 2-second delay. And it's impossible. Like you can't actually have a normal cadence because your brain just short circuits when it hears a feedback loop to itself. It's really entertaining to watch people talk though, because it makes them seem like they're really drunk. Yeah.
The two things are not mutually exclusive.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
But
it is only 11 o'clock here, so
That's right. Yeah.
I'm still drinking on the on Mio. So,
just for a little bit of context, though, just for people tuning in, John, Jason, like you guys have had a podcast now for quite a few years. One of the things that I've loved to tune into. Again, I'll just reiterate that story that somebody recently on Slack just pointed out that this was their favorite thing to listen to as they're like doing their Saturday morning chores and mowing the lawns. And I think it's really cool to get to that point where you become part of somebody's routine and you have something that they look forward to at however often you release content. So it's always kind of a nice feeling in that regards.
absolutely,
Yeah,
it's always nice to hear when somebody other than John's mom listens to the podcast as well.
Yeah.
My mom doesn't. She's flat out said, I don't listen to any of your stuff. I tried for like a minute and I just don't understand any of it. The John guy's nice, but I don't understand anything you're saying. So yeah, it's nice when somebody else is listening. John, and I've said this numerous times over the years, part of the reason why we've been doing this for so long is because it helps us stay up on the new. It's, we have these conversations anyway, and finally we just turned on a recorder. That's all it ends up. We don't start with notes. We just go through what's new and what we're doing and what's interesting and what we find out there in the world.
Yep. No, you actually joke about the mom thing. Like, my mom was one of the first people who actually subscribed to my blog years ago, and recently, like in the last 12 months, I've started to use those avatars that have like the various emojis. I'm not quite to the extent where like Adam takes a picture of himself, and I really would like to know the process where he like freezes and actually takes a photo. But my equivalent is an emoji of those things, and every time I have a new one, my mom will actually email, be like, "Oh my God, baby! I like that. It's such I love this like new look for you. It's adorable."
I believe, and this is unsubstantiated rumor and conjecture, I think that Adam's kids just walk around with a camera and just randomly take pictures of him throughout the course of the day. And that way, he just has a stream of them, because I know that my kids do enjoy taking selfies all the time and catching dad doing weird things. We've got a stream of them. So yeah, but none of them go into our podcast. Thank God.
Exactly. But yeah, like
it is a heck of a it is a nice, every once in a while we'll be at a conference somewhere in Europe. I've had people come up and say, "Hey, I really appreciate you doing that. It's really informative." I'm flabbergasted every time it happens, but it really does, make you want to keep doing it. It's a nice thing.
Exactly. And I don't know if you guys get it, but like there's a bit of surrealism of like having fans or people who know you before they do, and every once in a while somebody like, "Oh, hey, Reed," like, wait, have we actually met? Or like, do you just, because they're actually so familiar, and I have a hard time sometimes because a lot of them now, at least back when pre-COVID, when we used to go to conferences, where they don't actually know, it's just that they watched a bunch of or listened to a bunch of your content.
Yeah, and it's fair enough. I mean, you do that long enough, and you do feel like you know someone. And yeah, you compound that though. I mean, we do the speakers gig, year after year, and after a little while, yeah, you'll get people that you've seen before, but you don't remember their name. There's that's also a little bit odd, but I think, you know, just about everybody at our business suffers from imposter syndrome a little bit. I know I do. And so there's a basic assumption that if I've been able to figure something out, it must be easy. So why would anybody want to listen to what I have to say? So you got to overcome that a little bit.
Well, there's the
we have benefit of being an audio only type of a thing most of the time. People don't recognize our faces quite as often, but I have had it where it's like, you're that guy. I've listened to your podcast that we've been talking for half an hour, 40 minutes, and oh, you're that guy. It's like, you're uglier in person than you are on audio. It's like, yeah, of course. You know, it's just part of the deal.
That's fantastic. But like that's kind of got to be an interesting thing unique to the podcast more. Like you said, it's where you're almost like a voice actor in that sense, where it's like, oh, I thought I recognized your voice. Now I have a face to put to it.
That's it. Yeah.
We haven't actually.
It makes it you're wrong too.
Yeah.
Talk up to you quite as frequently and go, you know, I did this thing and you were wrong about that. Like they don't quite recognize this as much as some others. So.
I realize we actually haven't done it yet, but if you guys could, I'm sure there's going to be some people tuning in who haven't listened to you yet. If you want to give a quick like spiel about just yourselves, what you're doing, and then also just like whatever things you think are important to kind of like highlight about the BIFocal podcast.
Sure. John, do you want to go or do you want me to?
You go
All
first.
Right, so
you're next to read.
Yes. There we go. So I'm Jason Himmelstein. I have been in AE since 2015. Started out in SharePoint, became whatever we were next, and now I think we're on our fourth change as Office Apps and Services since I've been an MVP. And then 2 years ago became a VP in data platform for Power BI. And then this year I was actually accepted into the regional director program. So that's what I do in the community, plus the BIFocal podcast, which we usually do on a weekly basis. You know, I think we're skipping next week because we're doing this. So we're sort of holding back. January is a nice slow month. I don't think we're releasing an episode next week, but normally it's every week. Usually around Tuesday, John puts out all the social stuff. But I work for EY. I'm the FSO tax innovation leader for EY here in the US. And you know, John and I speak together at conferences all over the world and love doing the Power BI thing, love the collaboration stuff. Been working with Microsoft now for over 20 years. Wrote a book about, oddly enough, Power View and Power Pivot back in the day. That's how I got started with all this stuff. But you know, love working with the community. It's been a passion of mine for years. Helping people. You know, it's not just lip service. You know, when people reach out, and that's why we started the podcast. It's like, we do all these things. We really need to find a way to make sure that we can share this knowledge with others. Of what's happening in the community, what's happening in the service, what things should you stay up on in a more digestible manner. And so we try to make it a little bit fun. But we also, because we don't work for Microsoft, we have the added benefit of being able to just be brutally honest about what we're thinking and what we're seeing and how things go, you know, and that's part of being an MVP, is giving that feedback both to the teams at Microsoft as well as into the community. But we try and do it in a way, not a way. So
perfect. And you managed, I'd say like 99% of that came through. I think one or two were clipped here or there, but otherwise like that went perfectly.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my the local network here in San Antonio is having some issues today and this whole week. So sorry if I get a little clippy. You know, I'll try and get some help for that. See if there's a little guy that'll pop up and offer me assistance.
I was about to say, just don't offer me advice on how to fix Word.
Right. Yeah.
Not a problem.
So
mail merges are not going to happen.
But before John goes, just quick question: was the book on Power Query simply one page, and you open it and it says just don't use?
Oh no, Power View. We have. Yeah.
Now it's the second edition, right? Yeah.
So, quick funny story before John goes. Got emailed something internally at work this week saying, "Hey, this is being offered as a training. Should we have our people do it?" And the fifth bullet on the main slide of all the training was Power View. It was like, "Nope, easy, we're done." Like something that Microsoft is completely walked away from. Probably not something we should bother training people in right now. So.
Like those are those small things that bug me. It's like, why is it still part of it? Or, and I mentioned to you the other day as well, the like when you see that the slide that's supposed to be like a PowerPoint or a Power BI training, and it has the like the old angled Power BI logo. Like, man, that's
Yep.
3 or 4 years old. Update your slides.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with Adam in the chat. I'm still waiting for Silverlight Gen 2. That's a. I'll update the book when that happens. When they do that, man, imagine all the royalties.
Exactly right.
So, anyway, John.
Adam wants to burn it with fire. I feel the same way about.
No, that's me. That's me.
So yeah, I'm John White. I'm also I'm CTO and co-founder of companies called Unlimited Viz. We make a product called tyGraph. I'll get to that just a little bit in a second. But like Jace, I'm a dual MVP in both Office Apps and Services and data platform. I think that's right, Office Apps. Anyway, old guy, been around technology for quite some time. Started out way back in the Novell days, believe it or not, in the 90s. So been through that. Been through Lotus Notes a fair bit, and then got into SharePoint and the Microsoft stack a fair bit in the 2000s, and in 2006 started this company with my partner Ed Senez, and focusing in on SharePoint, but specifically the BI workload in SharePoint. So that's how I come to this. So when Power BI first hit the scene, and I think it was 2012 actually, or 2013, was all over that like a dirty shirt, and kind of haven't looked back. We switched from being a services-based company to a product-based company earlier on, about 5-6 years ago, and now we've got, I think, the preeminent product out there for analyzing usage data in Microsoft 365 across the board. So if you want to know what SharePoint's doing, et cetera, and it's an interesting architecture, but one part of it is the fact that we deliver the whole front end experience is delivered with Power BI. So we took a big bet on Power BI early, and it's really paid off. And yeah, along the way, I've certainly been part of the community. And Jason got a hold of me a bunch of years ago and said, "Hey, we should do the podcast." I'm like, "Oh, really? Do you think anybody wants to hear what we have to say?" Maybe. Let's give it a shot. So 6 episodes later, we're still going. I don't know about strong, but we're still going.
It's definitely been a journey. It got a lot easier when we started having somebody else edit the audio. That made a world of difference. Now all we do is get together and we talk about this stuff and spitball new ideas, and there's so much changing all the time. It's hard to stay up on it unless you have that marker in your calendar to keep learning and to keep growing. Yeah. And I spend my day managing teams of people and working on new stuff in the Power Platform. Whether it's most of my time, I try to spend most of my time in Power BI specifically, a lot with Power Apps and Power Automate as well. So it's just a ton. I really love do this stuff for a living, which I made a change about a year ago and went to EY. It's almost it's almost a year now, and I was a COVID baby, as I call it at EY, and I've never actually stepped foot into an office since I've been an employee. Everything is done via Teams. It's very different. So
yeah, I just wanted to mention that I think you were talking about the fact that when I was on the podcast as a guest, that one of the things that made just doing the episodes a lot easier was really being able to just hand it off. I think you guys just give the file to somebody, right?
That's right.
It's kind of nice to basically they just polish it up, make the clean up any static and noise, and just send you back a completed thing. Yeah. I'm getting to that point. I'm about halfway through a transition of externally relying upon somebody to do edits and stuff, but I still do a lot of that work myself. John, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say we got a great audio engineer. His name's Marco, and frankly, if anybody's interested in doing a podcast and having all the production handled for a very reasonable rate, ping us. We'll put you in touch.
I didn't know Marco Russo did audio editing.
Different Marco.
It's hard to not hear that name. With anybody in the BI industry, you hear Marco, you immediately think of Russo.
Yep.
Nobody else is allowed to use that name. Go
at
ahead.
Ignite about how to get started doing this stuff, and we've had a lot of people come up and talk to us. I think the more people that do these things, get out there, because it's really hard to find and engage with folks these days, and be able to hear people's takes on it, and have a forum to be able to feed back to them. Whether it's I get pinged on LinkedIn or Twitter occasionally about just asking questions. It's really nice to be able to have that interaction point with them. So.
No,
Yeah,
I
thanks for the
agree.
spit take there, Adam.
Russo, the sound guy.
Right, yeah.
My kids will be playing Marco Polo in the poll, and I get the polo part wrong.
Right? Yeah, you say Marco, I say Russo.
That's it.
Another thing you were mentioning, Jason, is the just keeping up to date. I do feel that there's a certain level of honesty that needing to produce content keeps me. There are a lot of changes that constantly happen every month with Power BI. I'm also very appreciative of that because it makes it very easy for most of the time. Like January is a dry month, obviously, each year, but generally it's not too hard to find a video to do because there's at least a dozen to 2 dozen features that come out every month. So that part makes it easy, but it also is an incentive to all right, I need some new ideas. Let me go check out what's about to come out and do some recordings of that. Especially as an MVP, it's nice to be able to at least prep up the runway for yourself. But I have found that both for business wise, but also for content, that both of those are very strong incentives to make sure I'm always up to date on the latest and greatest.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Adam had a very cheeky question. I'm going to pop
I think
up
you
here.
should ask it. Yeah, there we go.
There you go. What is your favorite feature and why so this reminds me of what is your favorite Christmas movie and why is it Die Hard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Adam is
Jason
poking
loves the
at.
admin center. He loves the admin center almost as much as he loves the alerting system in Power BI. Almost.
I'm not going to get ragey today. We're not going to have that happen. It's way too early in the day.
Drink the tea.
Yeah. There are certain moments in time where you look at things and you get all excited for something, and then you look back 2 years later and realize just how disappointing that moment in time really was, because you're never going to see the thing you were hoping for. And the Power Platform Admin Center, I fear, is part of that for me. I was an admin for so long. Built servers, spinning up boxes was a joy. I really loved it, and bringing things together. I was a CCM guy. I was a SCOM and MOM guy. I loved to be able to manage and monitor and do all of those things. And the idea of Power Platform Admin Center, where I would be able to pull all of this Power Platform stuff together into one, was really exciting. 2 years ago, and I'm still waiting for anything to be real in that thing. So it's just disappointing, and alerting is I'm not going to cry, John. You're not going to make me cry on a Friday. It's almost the weekend.
I will say, at least with alerts, is it is nice that it's very clear. Hey, if you want anything advanced, you can immediately just plug this into. I still want to call it Flow. You could plug it into Flow. Yeah. Thank you.
Flows.
Yes.
They are flows. They're in Power Automate, and I hate that name.
It's a flow inside of Power Automate. But yeah. So there, at least there's quite a few ways to customize that. When it comes to that. But so would you say the admin center is a bit like getting socks for Christmas when you wanted that new Hot Wheels set or whatever you would be getting?
It's sort of like really wanting that really nice bottle of whiskey, and instead you get a 3-year-old bottle of Gatorade that's half drunk.
And that's been mixed with Monarch vodka or something, right?
Yep.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
It is something in a bottle. It is liquid, but it's not what you were hoping for. But I will say, down the lines of what you're talking about, sorry, John, go ahead.
I was just going to say, he did ask what your favorite feature is, so you can tee off on that if you like.
That's true. You just ignore the second half of that sentence.
Yeah.
I'm all about premium per user right now because it unlocks so many features for what I'm actively doing on a day-to-day basis. We're doing so much with the premium workload. Paginated reports is a huge part of, when I joined EY, I saw a huge opportunity to modernize a tax function. That's why when my kids look at me and go, "Dad, you suck at math. Why are you working for an audit firm doing tax?" It's like, and why are you doing BI? Like, well, because I really enjoy it because it makes math easier. Like that's part of it. But the ability to take and go end to end, and John and I actually have a session that we've put together. Don't know when we're going to get up to do a real in-person conference. When we do, it's a session we'll be doing. And to be fair,
Just to be fair.
Yes.
go back to the comments.
To be fair.
To be fair,
I'm really happy you guys watched that show.
Reed, I live about 20 minutes from where they base it. Now, it's not actually called Letterkenny. It's called Listowel, but that's where they're from. And that's what they're talking about. And they speak the way I spoke when I grew up. So that's
fantastic.
And occasionally still does, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So going back, because we're not going to get, I'm going to keep on the rails with this.
Yeah.
To go and take data from different places to move it along and being able to output it into a different way to be able to be picked up by a third-party system, which is exactly how I'm using paginated reports right now. I'm outputting stuff into either Excel or CSV formats to be able to get, in a tax function, being able to look at it and go, yeah, that data's right, or no, we don't have it quite correct yet. And when we do, then leverage Power Automate to be able to spit out that and move it down the line to the next thing. Going end to end with things is truly really powerful. And so that's why premium per user in a testing, as I'm doing this, I don't have to worry about spinning up new capacities and things like that to get things ready. But instead, I simply am able to, when I'm ready to put it into production world, move it into a P1 or sometimes a P3, depending on how big things are. But I'm able to really leverage the power of the premium capacity now and all of these great features that, for me, premium per user, it has unlocked that. And I think that it was such a great thing that has happened. And there's so many things that we've, if you go back and listen to our podcast, the first episode of this year, there's a really great interview that we happen to have been able to capture with Mr. Clicky Clicky Draggy Droppy. And go take a listen to it and hear about all the great things that are coming
Christian
this
Wade,
year.
for those unfamiliar.
I just figured Clicky Clicky Draggy Droppy worked and everybody know who that was. So, so Christian talked about all these great things that are being unlocked by the Gen 2 capacity and being able to leverage all of that on the per user basis, and right now being able to do it for free, it's just, super powerful and be able, I'll just end with this. I got asked by somebody on Twitter recently, like, why should I invest in something? They won't tell me how much it is. It's unknown how much it's going to cost. Why should I get attached to it? And I look at it completely different. I look at it and say, go and try it and see what you think it's worth. It gives you an opportunity to decide, is this worth $100 a month to me? Is it worth $1 a month to me? What is it that these things that I'm now able to do using these tools, what's it really worth to me? And when they actually do come out with the price point, then you could say, wow, that's way too expensive. Or, wow, I'm getting a great deal on this. It's giving you that opportunity before you look at the sticker price to decide, is it something you really want to do? So I've got a bunch, and that's my take on, how do you deal with they won't tell us a price.
Yeah. So I think there's so many benefits that come out of that PPU, whether or not it provides an easy transition period for people to test it out. One thing that I've heard quite a few other MVPs who've been deploying this stuff is what they will do now is they'll actually use the PPU for like a test for the dev environment. Like they'll create a lot of workspaces specifically for development, put them all into there because it's shared resources, and it basically keeps a lot of like maybe the heavy refreshes off of their actual dedicated capacity and save all that for the actual production stuff. So even then, like people actually having hybrids of both seems to be somewhat common now too.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm using it.
Yep. It keeps things nice and clean and and separated for deployment, which is nice. And even I haven't tested, but I think you can actually use a deployment pipeline and go between them. You can go from a PPU premium to like a dedicated premium as part of that. I would believe because each one's a dedicated workspace.
Mhm. I haven't tried that yet. That's a really great idea. A lot of what I'm working on, I'm just redeploy at this point because we're just
Yep.
getting things out there because PPU is so new. So we actually
Hmm.
haven't moved fully into a full production yet where we have had to rev. We've pushed some things out from a PPU into full premium, but we haven't had to go back and do massive revs yet. So all we've done is just republish. So that's a great question.
Yeah, I haven't tested. I would say like 95% certain it because the only thing that's required for deployment pipelines is that it has to be premium. It doesn't say what kind of premium it
Mhm.
has to be.
Right.
Yeah, and that's another feature that it's actually a good, like, I think, selling point for PPU is it's much easier to digest paying for that if you just want like deployment pipelines or you just want
Mhm.
paginated reports. You don't want to spend a minimum of like 1,000 a month.
It'll definitely work for PPU. What I don't know is if it'll work to move from one capacity to another. That's the unknown. Yeah,
Because
we'll see.
the only thing that deployment pipeline really pipelines do is it's just the UI that allows you to move from one to the other, like rather than having to republish yourself. Yeah.
Well, if you can go between capacities today, I don't think premium per user would introduce anything different to that. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's really just another capacity.
Yeah.
What are some of the
Deployment pipelines will
yeah.
get a lot more powerful for me once we get in where we're actually able to publish from a GitHub repo or or an ops repo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's on my wish list, a massive wish list. I want to be able to save off and be able to save off my assets into an Azure DevOps location and then be able to
Yep.
say, go and republish this and go and do
Yeah.
so we're doing so much with Azure DevOps in so many other areas. This is the
Yep.
one that I need to see that happen. So it's I see Mark
Yep.
making a comment. It's on everyone's
Yeah.
wish list, and I thought a lot about it because I got asked the question: do you care about more Azure DevOps or GitHub? And business
Using
Jason
Git.
cares about Azure DevOps. Community Jason cares about GitHub, but who pays the most? It's business Jason,
Yeah,
So
but
hopefully,
DevOps is primarily using Git repositories anymore anyway. So you build for Git and you're good to go. I mean, I think it's going to go one way or another. I mean, we've got everything in Git repositories within DevOps, except of course for PBIX files, which we use OneDrive for. It works, but yeah, I mean, it'd be really nice to have the full blown proper version control, etc. that DevOps offers.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would have, my hope and I would imagine the future vision has to be incorporating GitHub, considering it's like it's owned by Microsoft. And they, I mean,
Yep.
Databricks came out as a beta connector in December, right? So
Yep.
that's getting rolled out. I would think at some point in the future, they're if it's not already, I don't know a ton about the backup of the GitHub architecture. Is it already in Azure in the backend, or is it still like a separate system that they might migrate?
Well, when you spin up a new repo in DevOps, you can pick the old Visual Studio Team Services, or you can pick Git, and it's
Okay, okay.
now it's not GitHub, but it's the Git format. So
Got it. Okay.
yeah, GitHub's just a UI on a bunch of projects anyway. So
Exactly.
there'd be nothing stopping you from moving between. Yeah.
I've seen some interesting things come out, at least as far as version control. I just noticed the other day that Dropbox just had a option for check in and check out that just came in. I opened up a file and it says, "Do you want to lock this file?" I'm like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, other tools have had that for years, where like SharePoint, you can check it out to make sure nobody overwrites it. But to finally see that pop up in Dropbox, like that was really like, okay, I'm glad they finally did this. I've lost count of the number of times when companies use that, where you end up with like the conflicted copies just because people have had it open and it's not fun.
yeah, I can't say I've looked at Dropbox all that much lately. But it's good to know that they're
since
catching up
OneDrive
to
got
Moss
back,
2007. That's a positive thing. So.
Exactly.
yeah.
John, what have been some of
OneDrive
your?
can actually,
I was
I was
just
just going to say,
yeah.
OneDrive's actually been a pretty solid tool for the last 3 years. 3 years, I think. Yeah, is fair to say.
When they integrated
Sorry, Ray.
it, I was gonna say, well, when they integrated OneDrive with like SharePoint, so to speak. I mean, it's all Azure in the back end now, but at least yeah, well,
Sort of.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact like you open OneDrive online, it doesn't go to OneDrive anymore; it goes to SharePoint. It's basically a SharePoint folder, a SharePoint URL.
It actually always has been. It always has been. The question is what's backing it up, and some of the new
Yeah.
improvements you're seeing. That's the storage in Azure that
Yep.
you're talking about. But at the end of the day, you're going through. You can, if you watch what's going on with your URLs, you're going through SharePoint. No
Yep.
matter what you do, you can't escape SharePoint. SharePoint is there. You use Teams, you're using SharePoint, whether you know it or like it or not.
Exactly. But it's the nice
And
part
the
was
thing
at
is,
least
you shouldn't have to care. It shouldn't have
Right.
to care.
all I really care about as a developer is can I connect to the folder in Power BI? And it used to be you could only use SharePoint. OneDrive wasn't a folder connector, and then at whatever time a few years ago when they merged, it finally became like it doesn't matter where you put your files. It's basically going to go into a URL that can be translated to a file path.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Do you have any other things, John, that's really excited you about PPU or that you've just
Me?
seen people
Oh.
like implement with it?
No, well, it's in terms of features that have got me all hot
PPU.
and bothered recently. That's a frightening expression, isn't it? But right now, I mean, Jason took the premium per user, and that's certainly right up there. Gen 2 overall, the architecture for me, it's going to be a very big deal. Although it's not going to be a very big deal until it's available for the A SKUs. Because that's what
fair.
we're using, and it's going to allow us, because right now we've got an oversized A SKU, and it's oversized simply for refreshes, and that's going to let us downsize that and frankly save us a whole lot of money, and that's a good thing.
Are you talking about the auto scaling?
It's just the refreshes. I mean, the size of our capacity right now is based on the fact that we need it for the largest size of our data model, and that's for the refresh. When we're just generally operating, it doesn't require, in our case, an A4. But we should be able to get that back down probably to an A2 if we don't have to worry about the memory required to do the refresh, which is one of the benefits that Gen 2 brings. So yeah, I'm cranked about that. But functionally, it's a direct connect for Power BI data sets and Azure Analysis Services, which I'm sorry, Jeroen, but that's a horrible name. It's a little too long. We've literally had to, we're referring to them internally as direct connected data sets as opposed to live connected data sets, right? So that's what we're doing. But that's the ability, of course, to have a local model in a PBIX and have that connected up to multiple deployed data sets that are in the service. And that's just opening up a whole vista of opportunities for us. Just to describe a few, I mean, we've got several products we have tyGraph for SharePoint, tyGraph for OneDrive, tyGraph for Teams. And they do their thing. With this, we're going to be able to layer on top another report that ties them all together, and now we can slice and dice between the products and run queries across those products. So that's wonderful. But also for our customers now, it just totally changes the customization story. So instead of having to have custom PBIXs and custom templates, etc., for our products that tie off this model and that model. Now the whole thing is all about let's connect to all of these and build our own custom reports. And then when we go ahead and of course upgrade our product along the way, it's not disturbing anything. So it's a big improvement. And that's only a couple of the exciting points about it, but it's worth mentioning. So yeah, all this stuff came like at the end of the year, which was pretty spectacular. It was a pretty happy end of the year in the Power BI world for us.
No, I agree. The December is just one of those. I think partially because that they take January off. At least the last few years that I've been monitoring it closely. But it's always a nice just Christmas package that gets delivered at that month.
Yeah.
And so many exciting things. And it's almost, at least for me, a lot of a lot of the clients that I work with typically have a bit of downtime in December. It quiets down and then jumpstarts again in January, which actually gives extra time to go explore all of these new things.
Yep.
I haven't used it myself. I know Mike Carlo over at Power BI Tips got really excited about the Databricks connector. Have you guys played with that at all?
I played a lot with Databricks about a year and a half ago. It was an experimentation. I just used it. I think it's basically a modified ODBC connector is what we were using at the time. So I actually don't know what the new connector brings. I assume a pile of performance improvements, but no, I haven't been playing with that myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have definitely not been playing. Not in my space at the moment. So
Yeah. What I have been playing with a lot lately, I don't know if you want to talk about Databricks a bit, but is Azure Data Explorer. So that's the other thing, but it's not a Power BI feature, but it's a really nice data warehousing feature.
There you go. Yeah, I've heard that the interface has been and the Data Explorer. Remind me, is that the one that has like sprinklings of Power Query kind of stuff in there, or no?
Which is that?
The Data Explorer you were mentioning, is that the one that has like the sprinklings of Power Query in there, or?
No, that's Synapse, I think, is what you're referring
Okay,
to.
yeah.
If I'm right, yeah. That's basically the next gen of the Azure. Oh, now I'm having a brain fart. Azure Data Warehouse is what I was getting at, and that's got the materialized automatic materialized views. I can't remember what the official feature name is, accelerated queries or something like that. But yeah, I think that's what you're talking about, where you start to fire a lot of Power Queries at this thing, and it'll actually create a materialized view on the back end to
Yep.
speed up the processing down the road. Yeah. No, Azure Data Explorer is essentially what Microsoft's using in behind the scenes for their telemetry. So if you're using log analytics or application insights, you dive in there. That's backed by it used to be called Kusto, right? Which is
Yep.
again a far better name than Azure Data Explorer. Azure Data Explorer sounds like a tool, like Azure Storage Explorer is a tool. And it's a theme I keep coming back to. Microsoft cannot name things at all. But
God. Or rename.
yeah. Azure Data Explorer is a database. It's not the tool for using. What are we going to have? An Azure
I'm sure
Data
they could
Explorer
name it
Explorer?
something with apps, John, instead, if you'd prefer.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Or for business. Yeah.
So I have
But
a
actually,
go ahead. I was gonna say
no,
there was Jason, you and I were talking about this thing that Amantha or not Amanda wrote a blog on. Actually, I just spun this up so I can switch the screen over to this. So
Cool. I lost your audio.
I'll go back here for a
Hey,
second.
there you are.
Okay, so
there
We
you go.
lost your audio there.
I lost audio when that was up. Yeah.
all right. Oh, interesting. Well, it was up, and I'm going to go back and rather than try to fiddle around with the mics. But that thing that we just saw that was up there for a second, there's the quickly create reports in Power BI that basically it's the enter data button that's been in Power BI Desktop for years is basically now into the service, which allows you to just copy paste, put it right into there. I think that's it's a great new feature. I'm hesitant on the any flat manual data because refreshing requires you as the developer to do that. But I do think it's kind of hinting at the idea of at someday being able to basically have all of the desktop features in the service. That kind of goes to the idea of basically it's like there's no Power BI for Mac. Well, it doesn't really matter anymore because you can do 99.9% of your development just in a web browser.
Yeah, it's a first step, right? And I
Yeah.
mean, you've been able to create reports in the service forever, right?
Exactly.
You could create a report off of an already deployed data set. Excellent. Now you can basically bring some data in the clipboard right now, but of course it's going to get more fully fleshed out. I mean, we actually mentioned this. I think it was on our last podcast we were talking about it.
Mhm.
And I mean, how much of a stretch do you think is it to pull in Power Query Online? So instead of having to build a data flow, you could also do it here. And now you can start to pull in data that way into a report. Maybe you can't at that point, do any DAX editing. Maybe that's not there yet, but you got to imagine that's coming too.
Exactly.
Yeah, that for me, this is the beginning of a really again, I'm very, very, very hopeful
There we go.
for this to be a great tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
Type of a thing. Because when you look at what they're doing, and we know that they've talked and teased the idea of doing something over in SharePoint in this type of a space as well, quick create reports from data in SharePoint, etc. When you pair this up, different things that we're starting to see in data flows around data, around Power Query, and the new visual data prep that they put in public preview back was November, I think it was. There's so much more coming to the web. And we're starting to see some of these features, like specifically the visual data prep being in public preview, that is a web-only type of a feature, or sorry, web first. We'll start to see it come to the desktop hopefully at some point. I believe it says that in the article. But we're starting to see that flip, right? And John and I, to SharePoint days, where things used to be SharePoint on-prem first, and then you'd get it in the cloud. Then all of a sudden, one day, that flipped. It was seeing stuff in SharePoint Online first, and then 6 months later, they'd give you an on-prem version that contained all of that. So I think we're going to start to see that now. I'm not as old as John, but old school kind of a guy. I like my desktop clients. They're called fat clients, for a reason, because I like to lay my hands around something meaty that, I can make sure works properly. And, I don't like losing things just because a cache session died or my internet blinked so I'm nervous about those types of experiences, kind of, because you can see my internet's been a little bit glitchy throughout the course of this. But, I think that we should see parity for a while when we get up to that point. But ultimately, I really do believe that we'll see the web become that first-class citizen where they'll put a lot more stuff. Just my personal take. Hopefully it doesn't happen for a little while longer, but it's nice to see it coming, to a side-by-side type of we'll see things happen that way world.
No, I agree. Go ahead, John.
And it's nice to see Amanda back on the team, by the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Amanda, congrats on the marriage as well. Took me a second to like, who is this new Amanda? Oh, okay,
Looks
she
like
got
Amanda.
Amanda 2.0.
Exactly.
Amanda 2.0.
It's using HTML. She's using HTML5 now, not Silverlight. There's a deep dive joke for people right there.
Yeah.
But to your thing, Jason, just on the parity between, or I guess the difference in releases between online and desktop. I won't name names, but there's definitely like it's entertaining and almost it's fun to watch on Twitter. There's a certain MVP that always is managing to like be the first out of the gate to get the mentions of the latest and greatest features, which is and he's made a game out of it. Basically, spaced on the last name, but Daniel, and it's impressive that he basically has a game each month where he goes through and tries to find the hidden gems on the Power BI service because they get released there before they get released in desktop.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, and the best part though is he's in Australia where they actually get rollouts newer than they do in the US. So he's literally able to see them before anybody else. So it's like
That's gonna take a lot of time.
yeah, I'm sure he's honed that knife like super sharply, and it's great. Like he's a master at it. It's fantastic, but it's always one of those like you see it, it's like damn it, he managed to get that first. Okay, only once there was a new feature that I saw in the service that like, wait, hold on, this is new. Has he blogged about this? He hasn't blogged about this yet. Yeah, I finally get to be the first person to tweet about this.
Scoop.
It was this, I got the scoop on it. It was that one small victory. I forget even what it was, but I just remember being super happy about that. It was really funny.
Every once in a while, I'll stumble on one of those. What was the last one? I think I noticed the icon. You can add the icon for Power BI data sets before it was. Or the RDL download directly from a data set was another one of those a few months ago. So had to tweet that out in Finland, so stop that.
Well, I'm always worried because it's one of those things where because of all the different NDAs that you sign as an MVP or as an RD, as all these things plus partners and all of this. It's like I never remember whether I saw it on the public or if I knew it was coming because I heard about conversation with someone internal. It's like, let somebody else be the first. I'm okay.
Exactly.
I just
Yep.
like
It's
I used to
safer
love
that
to
way.
try and do that when in my early MVP days, like when all the SharePoint stuff, like gotta. Nope. I'm just gonna sit back with my cup of coffee and read everybody else what they've said, and and go use it, and then we'll talk about it on a podcast that people can listen to later. So
There's a with a lot of those new features, like you said, there's a certain level of like, so Jason, that one feature, that you were the thing about, like you want to get somebody else to say it first, like, okay, cool, you said it first, we can talk about it, but I'm not the one who started the conversation. Yeah, I've had that on multiple meetings or other stuff, like, wait, so that new feature that we all like, are we allowed to, okay, we're not going to talk, okay, cool, we're not going to talk about it. But I've had that happen many times.
Yeah, it's like interviewing the product team members. You steer them in a direction, see if they want to go there. No, okay.
Exactly. At least one thing that I've gotten the absolute de facto, because I've talked to Kelly and a few other people at Microsoft, and as long as you have any link of an announcement from Microsoft, and or it is just a feature you can publicly access in the service, anywhere in the world, that it's okay. I have been like asked a couple of times, like, unless we made an official announcement about it, we ask maybe to not tweet about it, because it's nice to, we want to have documentation first before the snowball starts rolling. But that's, other than that, it's just like, it's a request, not an actual NDA breaking thing. Because I was
add to that because of how things roll out into the service, somebody may not have it yet. Like you just said, Australia may get it before you get it in Canada, right? Or and so because the megaphones that we hold are so large, and people go, they get upset when something hasn't been flighted to their tenant, or the train hasn't gotten to them, or whatever it is. It's like, you know what? Maybe being first isn't always that great, but instead, make sure that when it's out there and people are accessing it, being able to answer the questions about it and talk more in depth, because there's when you look at the population of people who actually I'm not going to swear, who give a poop. Let's go with that about about these things, right? There's the 90% of people who are going to wait until something really is out there and solid, and it's probably 2 months before they actually touch a thing that was in preview, or maybe not touch anything that's in preview. But then there's the 19% who get excited and want to see it, and then there's that 1% who are desperate, like hitting refresh on the day that they know that it's going to be coming out. I want that desktop. How do I get it? I need that. That's just part of the reality here, right? And we get the benefit of being early and getting to talk about these things, and because of the MVP program, we sometimes get a little bit of a heads up on certain things. But it's really nice to be able to help guide people once they are ready for those new features. And that's something I've enjoyed. So,
no, I agree, and I think there's definitely like a safety net to have, like, once it's in desktop, go ahead and do it, and then there's no confusion about, like, well, wait, where is this? Oh, well, it's in this location but not this location. So like, I've generally withheld anything until that happens. I'll usually have videos spun up the month before, all like just ready to literally hit publish onto the service. But other than that, it's I think that's a common question that I've seen a couple of times when I have blogged about something that comes out in the service. For the few times in the year I played that fun game, it's always like, I don't see this. Oh no, it's only in the service. Like, well, I don't develop reports in there. Why is this? Okay, well, wait another 3 weeks, you'll see it in desktop.
Yeah, exactly that. That and the fact that UI might change on you and you have to re-record your video. So.
That's only happened once, thankfully, with a desktop version, where they slightly changed something like that, and like, all right, and I actually kind of cheated. I kept the video the same, but I took a couple of screenshots for those moments where it was showing it, and I basically just overlaid it on top in Camtasia.
Yeah, it's the reason why I will never write another book. Dave and I, my co-author, we had to rewrite the book 3 times because things changed before they released. We had early access, and things just they kept changing, and so literally we had to rewrite the entire book 3 times. So I've written 3 books, only had it published once.
Yeah, there's I'm on a very similar vein of that. at this point, I've done a couple of video series. I also do think that for a lot of tutorials, like admin stuff makes sense for a book, but things that require step by step, video mediums, I think, are much better for that. I know the book gives you like the street cred, as, because it's you got something that went through the whole process. But I've been asked like by
Oh,
Press
my
and a few
ISBN
others.
number is going to be on my tombstone, dude.
Right?
It's
Yeah,
like, I
exactly.
told my wife,
You're a published author.
under loving husband and father, hopefully grandfather and great grandfather by that time. ISBN numbers right underneath that.
Just have the barcode. You can scan it with a QR code.
Author of developing business apps.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think at this point, like I've considered it, but hearing enough from like Matt Allington and anybody else have asked, like, oh no, you're gonna put 200-300 plus hours into it, you'll make a couple thousand off of it. Like it's not gonna be that much.
Yeah.
Mostly,
Oh, yeah.
it's you get a name brand next to it, But then it's like, oh, I'm not starving for work, so what would really be the point of investing like a month
Right.
basically of work into that, 2 months of work into that?
And the reality is that the technology changes so fast now. If you're
Too
doing
fast.
something that is able to be online, people, a companion update to it. It's the print medium for me is just not one that I care to keep up with. Same thing from a blog perspective. Like part of the reason why I don't blog nearly as much as I used to is because it got out of date. People are like, hey, this PowerShell doesn't work anymore. Well, yeah, everything changed. Like I haven't touched that in 3 years. Sorry.
There are dates on the article. Yeah.
Just stick to these soft conversations like this. This video mostly, outside of a few topics, it's not gonna break, which is nice. But I totally get you. It's like we used to have the 4-year life cycles for Office and all that stuff, where you have a couple security patches, but basically it remained. You had a good 4-year window where you could write a book or do a video course. Nothing would change. Now it's 3 to 6 months. Ribbons change, icons change, constantly gets updated. I'm hopefully in the next like 2 to 4 weeks releasing a new video course in like design, and I started making it in September and October, and I thought like it was going to be set in stone, but then the relationship view had some like color changes again. Like already like some of my slides and videos, like it's basically the same, but it still is a small difference. Like immediately I have some things that are already outdated in this that just look slightly outdated. And like it only takes a month or so, and something will change, and you're immediately starting to show the age in the content.
Yeah, BIFocal actually started out as a live stream, monthly web show way back at the very beginning of the first 10 or 12 episodes. That was exactly what it was. We used to do demos, and then we realized by the time we got it published, it was already out of date for some of this stuff. And so it became a lot easier to talk about things and give people find that people could interact with us in a different way and ask questions and reach out to us, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of those different, Facebook groups, all of that, email and ask questions, and get feedback. And we could just update on the next podcast. So, for us, the audio stream has made it a really nice way of dealing with it. And we get to keep up to date ourselves and keep other people up to date on it as well. The one other thing that we were talking about, and then I see that there is actually a question here, is we didn't talk about it, but one of the things I'm really excited about this year is getting more into the smart narrative side of things and starting to see that plus the small multiples visual that came out. There's a lot more really neat stuff that they've started to focus in with it from a Canvas perspective and making it more intelligent and easier to use. I'm excited. The smart narratives thing is something we're going to be leveraging very heavily in my side of the world. So
it's like the little it's the mini AI things that are out there. It's the smart narrative, key influencers, decomposition tree. There's like I'm Q&A, and then I think I'm missing a fifth somewhere in Power BI. I think there's one more thing. There's the 3 visuals plus a smart narrative. I thought there was one other. Maybe not.
Yeah, so decomp tree and smart narrative.
Thank you, anomaly detection. That's the fifth.
Yeah.
But that's not a visual.
But an AI feature. Yep.
Yeah. And the predictive side is getting very exciting as well. Those the key influencers piece has never been something that I have found to be super useful in the work that I do. I'm sure that it's really useful for others, but smart narratives, I think, is ubiquitous. I think everybody can find use in it. The fact that you can write your own, hey, and here's the information that you need, and let it do some fill in for you. Really, really cool stuff. So.
Yep. I did a fun video on that, using that in a tooltip where you can hover over, and it's basically like, so for the current month, the data was this, with the percentage over, like you script it out. The one thing that I really hope that they was, I hate the fact that you have to use Q&A to find the measure to put into smart narrative. Like, let me say add field, drag and drop. Like, I would love to be able to do that, because sometimes it doesn't get it. Like, if I have a long measure name, if I can type most of it, it still doesn't show up in the drop-down list. I have to copy and paste the entire exact name, then it finally shows up in Q&A. So that's my one request is, this is made for developers, not end users. So as developers, we don't want to have to use Q&A to find the stuff out of our model. We just want to use a field, at least for me, and I'm assuming a lot of people. So I'm hoping that comes out at some point. You guys are welcome to chime in quickly on that. And I also just want to say, in lieu of time, there is one question I will throw up from Mark once we transition into that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm good with questions.
Yeah. And then anybody else as well, you're welcome to throw a question up.
Oh.
We got one before that as well, but with all the continuous updates, being busy with work life, I can see the whole. What are the most important things we do in order to stay up to date? For me, the BIFocal Podcast. I think that's about the most important thing. It really forces. Well, I mean, one of the things we do is every month you get the feature update, and it comes out, and we do a show on the feature update every month. We just go through that whole blog post, and if you're going to talk about it in front of a whole audience, you better understand what all the pieces and parts are, and that really is
a partner who does. So that's a really important one too.
Yeah,
and have it explained. So it's a little back and forth on that, but yeah, usually about an hour before we record on the desktop. Well, it used to be the desktop drop, the feature drop. I'm out there. Oh boy. Okay, I get that. Okay, I get that. Oh, I've used that. So yeah.
Yeah, we've started to shift. We used to record the day it came out. Now, because it was always desktop, and it was something that was digestible that we could throw in and start to play with, and but now that it's this massive drop, we've actually started to break it into 2 shows, and we tend to wait a little bit longer, because that way we have time to get some hands-on with it. Because at the beginning, we would talk about things that we hadn't gotten a chance to actually experience yet. And now with some of this stuff, it's important for us to have a little bit of hands-on. Mark, Reed, you and I were talking about it just yesterday. Hey, I got really excited, and we were talking about the watermarking, and I was so excited that we finally had watermarking in the reporting and being able to lay a watermark of draft, and that was not what watermarking was.
Yep.
And I got excited about the topic, and as we started to talk about it on the podcast, dang it, John, this is not what I thought it was. I got all excited. We recorded this 5 minutes of me talking about how important this feature is, and that's not what the dang thing is. It's Canvas. It's a really nice, beginner hints and tips and tricks on the canvas. That's not watermark. That watermarking means a thing. Using words that mean a thing. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Anybody who's a fan of town knows change approved. Yeah, they can do that. But it's those things where we really had to stop and go, okay, let's make sure that we've touched and tweaked and done what we can, or are completely honest and say, haven't gotten to this one yet. Looks interesting. We're going to try to get back to it. So that's how we do it. Honestly, is I get with my team at work and see what they're finding interesting as well, and try and bring that to the podcast too. So
there's another question from Mark Gibson in there. I want to get to that, because it's actually been a bit of a thing for me. So if you wanted to go, I have my blog is whitepages.unlimitedviz.com.
In the description.
I talk about. I basically have a post that shows you how to do data-driven subscriptions with Power BI and paginated reports. Or for paginated reports. It has since, this kind of bears on your original question, it has since gotten a whole lot easier, because that blog post goes into how to create a custom action for Power Automate You don't need to do that anymore because the team came out with the actions for save or export file. And so if you want to, by the way, it's pretty cool the fact that you can do that. And with any of the Power BI API features, you can create a custom Power Action, Power Automate action. But now there's actually recipes to do this, to do the export. But my post talks about, and in my case, I use a SharePoint list as the data for the data-driven subscription. So who gets the subscription, and what are the parameters that we pass to the report, et cetera. So you might want to go and check that out. But yeah, it's gotten a whole lot easier. Probably that landed about 3 or 4 months ago, I think, from the team. And if you want to dig back a little bit further, and you're still, you don't want to pay for that. You're not using premium per user, although you should be. You're using dedicated capacity, but you don't want to you don't want to run up the bill too badly. You could use an A capacity and have that spin up for an hour, run your data-driven subscriptions, and have it spin down. You can use Power Automate to spin up and spin down dedicated capacities as well. So there's the long answer to a fairly short question.
I have one other question as the last one of the day, and then we can wrap it up. Then it'll cut off a little bit of it, but basically the thing that's missing is paginated reports. A good way to wean us off SSRS, or should we just jump into the Power BI service?
I wouldn't.
It's the same
so
thing.
First of all, I wouldn't want to wean completely off SSRS. There's nothing wrong with paginated reports, but yeah, I mean, if you can move your paginated reports up into the Power BI service, now you get to take advantage of all that other goodness that's up there. So there are you probably have half of your SSRS reports that really should be interactive, a PBIX style, and the other half are probably exactly what you want. You want to have it subscribe to them, have them run on a periodic basis. They're best as paginated reports anyway. So yeah, it's a great move. That's my opinion anyway. I'm hogging the mic, I know.
Yeah. So my answer to this is, and I do this on a regular basis, export data use paginated reports to take the data that once it's been transformed in Power BI, and we do a bunch of different things, export that data that we want in the shape that we want it in into a paginated report that is in an XLSX format or in a CSV format for ingression into other systems, downstream systems. Yep. So this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, but leveraging that means that we get to take the data into Power BI, data flow, all the different great stuff. But when you need that format, you need that export to PDF or Excel or CSV or whatever it is, that's exactly why using a paginated report is a good thing to do in this situation. So yes, that's a good way to wean yourself off and get yourself up into the service 100%.
And the magic these days with paginated reports, of course, is that they can connect to Power BI data sets. So now you've got a paginated report for printing, but you can still have your integrated interactive report because it's a Power BI data set. So you get the best of both worlds.
Exactly. I do know we're a little past the hour, but that's totally fine. I just want to say to everybody tuning in, thanks for hanging out with us, and for those watching as well in the future, the links to both of their blogs and the BIFocal Podcast is down in the description. I would recommend to go ahead and check those out. John, Jason, is there anything you want to finish to saying to wrap things up?
Not particularly. We won't be having a podcast next week, but in general, come check us out on a weekly basis and you can access all of our old podcasts at bifocal.show in your browser.
Perfect.
Happy 2021. Stay healthy, stay safe. I'm looking forward to a great year, and I'm looking forward to getting back to in-person events at some point in the future. Everybody who's out there worried, keep your chin up. Things are going to get better. It's going to be good. So 2021 is going to be a good year.
It's going for it 100%. And definitely we're on an upward trend right now. It's nice.
Yep, absolutely, man.
All right, everybody, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.